That time when Joe Biden took complete responsibility for his 1994 crime bill? The time when he admitted that he wrote it as a way to go after only black people and to target us specifically? Remember how he recognized that he had done irreparable damage to black lives and to the black community, and he apologized for his sins against us? Me neither. The black media warned everyone from the moment that wrinkled up racist name was getting kicked around as a 2020 presidential contender that this was the same racist bastard who wrote Biden's law, who stood on the floor of the U.S. Senate back in the 90s and used as much racial dog whistle language as he could to make it clear that the target would be black people and that this was his #1 priority, to persecute us. During the 2020 election, his spokesliars like Simone Mammy Sanders lied through their teeth and claimed that it was the states who were to blame for all of the mass incarceration of black people. Biden had nothing to do with that. And it was the new voices of black media who told you then that as soon as Jim Crow Joe takes the oath of office, he's going to start pushing for a new crime bill.
Why are you playing with this feed?
Bill for the exact same purpose. Well, the black bootlicks, the shea butter Twitter crowd, and they've been telling us for a year and a half now that he's turned over a new leaf. Oh, he can't be as bad as Trump. He would never do something like the 94 crime bill again. And sure, they've been wrong about, well, everything, but on this one, Jim Crow Joe wouldn't prove these guys totally wrong on something this enormous, would he? Would he? Now, if you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon, so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. And of course, be sure to give the video a like, as well as share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. Well, it looks like Jim Crow Joe is at it again. You see, the Democrats understand they don't have the orange man to scare black folks with this time. But they do have a bunch of little orange men wannabes at the state level who they can point to. Let's make one thing totally clear. In the nearly 6 months that Joe Biden has been in the White House, he hasn't done a damn thing for black people. Signed no legislation that's going to put tangibles in our hands or that's going to be protecting us from all of these anti-black racist attacks. Yet you already have the Democrats and their black flunkies beating the drum that black folks need to get ready to turn out to vote in massive numbers in 2022. Which begs the question, vote for what? We have made it crystal clear that the black votes demand are tangible. That means money for the folks who came to YouTube on the short bus. But what has Biden done for black people in his time in the White House now? All he's done is to sign Juneteenth as a federal holiday. In other words, make sure that all of those white federal employees get a paid day off. This do-nothing gesture that was so meaningless that Donald Trump himself had proposed to do it last year as his Hail Mary maneuver to get some of the black baby boomers to vote for him. Oh yes, the white supremacists, they know their Negroes very well, especially the dim-witted ones. So Biden makes an empty, pathetic sop to the black vote, or at least the dim-witted black voters, and he couldn't even be bothered to come up with something original. He just recycled one of Donald Trump's old ploys. So you have Biden and Trump literally operating out of the same playbook when it comes to us, which is exactly what both of the major parties do in policy. I broke down for you last year how Biden's so-called Lift Every Voice plan and Donald Trump's Platinum plan for Black America, the exact same garbage, word for word and line by line. So again, what the hell are we supposed to be voting for in 2022? or 2024? What the hell are we voting for? Trump said all that he would do is make Juneteenth a holiday, and so did Biden. Trump said he wouldn't defund the police, and Biden did him one better than that. But Biden said, I think that we should give the police more money. Trump said he opposed a police oversight commission. Biden said, hey, that police oversight commission that I promised you, well, you should go to Congress about that one. However, Biden has now announced that he's going to be pushing for a new crime bill. Because apparently, in case you didn't know it, I guess crime across America is just completely and thoroughly out of control. Don't you know why? I am recording this video address from my bulletproof bunker 50 feet underground, don't you know? Now, while there has been a reported increase in some major cities when it comes to violent crime, which is the main crime that people are most concerned about, though not when the police do it, apparently that's just a victimless crime. What needs to be remembered is Jim Crow Joe isn't proposing a 2021 crime bill to do black folks any favors. They just wait until there's a few headlines and they come in and say, that this is why we got to lock up all the niggers. Considering that Biden was the bastard who wrote the 94 crime bill and all the damage it did that he has neither admitted to nor done anything to so much as apologize for, you can guess what this new crime bill is about. Biden's so-called plan is going to give money to the cities to hire more law enforcement officials. I guess they didn't want to have to say police. And it's going to make sure that these police departments are going to be able to have new equipment and technology. Equipment meaning more guns, more military surplus. Technology meaning we're going to be giving you guys the latest in surveillance so that we can make sure we keep an eye on those black folks, especially the ones who think they're going to be toppling white supremacy. Now, before anyone goes thinking that, man, this is going to be dangerous, we might want to make sure that we make it clear there's not going to be any money being given to the thugs with badges on our watch. We're not going to be having you turbocharging the white supremacists who have the cities hire in order to persecute black people. Well, Biden's already figured out a workaround for that. Remember the coronavirus relief package that Congress passed earlier this year? Well, Biden's already made it clear that his so-called crime bill is going to be able to tap into the $350 billion in state and local funding that was provided by that coronavirus relief package. Yeah, all that money that got passed, you're sitting here thinking, oh, why the world do they need hundreds of billions of dollars? Well, it ain't just for coronavirus. It's for all this other stuff they intend to do. And when you look online to see what the white media says about Biden's plan, they all stick to, well, Biden wants to tackle rising violent crime, or he wants to curb gun violence. He wants to deal with illegal gun sales, and that's what they say. That's what all of their headlines say, which lets you understand, that helps you to know that these guys are all on code about what the messaging is going to be. None of them is saying Biden's going to greatly increase the number of police on the streets. They're not leading with that. They're not leading with Biden's going to be making sure that police have more equipment and more technology. They're not leading with that. They're not leading with, oh, here's going to be more thugs and badges on the streets. And Biden's going to continue and greatly augment the militarization of the police. They're not starting with that. Instead, they're just talking in very vague terms about violent crime spike, gun crimes. They're not talking about the police are going to have a hell of a lot more white supremacist reinforcement now. They don't lead with that. So what does that tell you? They know that the public is soured on the idea of putting more gun-toting white supremacists on the streets. And on top of that, Biden's trying to push a lie that, oh, well, we're not focusing on incarceration, et cetera, et cetera. But when you look at his so-called plan, you see that the lion's share of it, the first thing that actually gets mentioned when you actually read these articles is more police, more military equipment, more technology to surveil and go after black folks. That's what they actually lead with. More money to put more cops on the streets. So why don't the headlines say that? Because they're burying the lead. Yeah, that's how they operate. Whenever they pass one of these enormous spending bills, they always make sure that, well, we know what the cover story is going to be, and then there's going to be what we really use it for. Now, of course, there's much more to it than that. Biden also talked about investing in community violence intervention programs. What that means is white nonprofits, what that means. Stem the flow of illegal firearms. Well, that's going to affect about 5 pawn shops, probably. Expand summer programming, employment opportunities, and other support services for teens and young adults. Again, you can file that under the white nonprofits. And help formerly incarcerated people re-enter communities. You don't need a crime bill for that. But that's exactly the bait and switch. What's going to happen is you're going to have Kamala Harris and Nanny Sanders in front of the cameras, and they'll be talking about this is about helping incarcerated people re-enter communities. Oh, Biden, this is going to be different than the 94 crime bill. Certainly it's going to be a lot different. Hundreds of billions of dollars. That's what Biden's prepared to throw at it this time. Oh, this is going to be a lot bigger than the 94 crime bill. But here's the one thing that's missing from Biden's little 5-point plan: oversight. Oh, we're going to be throwing hundreds of billions of dollars at thug ranches, police departments across the country. But we're not going to be actually holding anyone to any standards, no requirements. All you got to do is say, hey, we got a little problem controlling the niggers around here, and they've been strangling us for money and such. I told you, and we have made it clear this is what Biden was going to do. When people start talking about defunding the thugs with badges, Biden was going to show up, and this is exactly what he said he was going to do. $300 billion. Now, he had said something, I think, like $300 million before. Yeah, well, that became 10 times as much. So what does that tell you about Biden? He already knew exactly where he was going to be going with this. He had no plans for a $300 million anything. He knew the communities were going to begin to treat the police like the terrorists they are. And what you do with terrorists is you go after their funding. And he decided, well, the federal government's going to supplement the white supremacist thugs with badges at the local and state level. And this way, the public wouldn't be able to hold the bastards to account. At the very least, you wouldn't be able to treat them like the terrorists they are and strangle them for funding. You see, Biden promised, he and Kamala promised a police oversight commission. Remember all that empty talk about that? And we told you that damn thing ain't never going to happen. That was just one of the empty promises he put out there so black folks would go, oh, see, he gonna do something for us. Now we got to vote for him. He gonna do something. And as soon as Biden took office, he hasn't said a word about that oversight commission since, has he? Though he did tell some reporters off camera that he's putting that proposal to the side. Maybe Congress can pick it up and do something, but he's not going to. It was supposed to be a presidential White House commission, not a congressional one. You see, Congress wasn't the group who promised the police oversight commission. Biden did. And sure, it's a worthless, meaningless gesture, but it just goes to show you this is so important to them that the thugs with badges not be impeded from persecuting black people that even a meaningless gesture they can't afford to go through with it. So what they're hoping for is that they don't say anything about it. And if the white media doesn't mention it, then hopefully people will forget about that police oversight commission thing that was mentioned. Because, hey, you damn sure ain't going to be seeing Joy Reid talking about it. You're not going to be seeing any of the typical black bootlick class from cable media talking about it. Don Lemonade won't say anything about it. Oh, yeah, you got Jonathan putting on his cape heart. And that buck-toothed scumbag, Jason Johnson, the usual suspects, they won't be saying nothing about it. Of course, it goes without saying, the roly-polies and such, they won't be saying anything about it. That's the point. Nobody will be saying, hey, you're giving the police hundreds of billions of dollars, and there's no oversight that's linked to any of this. But as far as Biden's concerned, hey, any group of people stupid enough to vote for him after everything he's done against black folks, well, they deserve whatever they get. You see, Biden made it very clear, when he's with this whole crime bill 2021 proposal, none of that money is going to be used to influence the states to punish the police. Oh no, he's not going to be using that money dangling like a carrot in front of the cities and states' faces and saying the only way you can get the money, though, is you have to end qualified immunity in your state. Hey, you know how you guys keep letting cops bounce from police department to police department? Only way you're going to get this federal money is you got to stop doing that. Cops can't be allowed to bounce around. Hey, all that stuff that we said about punishing the police, unless you change your laws and actually follow through on it, you can't get the money. In other words, the same thing that he did with the 94 crime bill. You see, Joe Biden studied what his segregationist mentors like Senator Eastland and other white supremacists taught him, that the federal government's the hand that feeds the cities. So because of that, you can influence city and statewide legislation simply by telling them, hey, we'll give you some money to do it. In the 94 crime bill, Biden wrote in a so-called truth in sentencing provision. What it did was it incentivized the states to the tune of $13 billion to change their laws so that they could be brought in line with all the completely draconian crap that Biden was putting on the books at the federal level. See, who says that the states are so fractured and take so long to get them to do anything? No, all you got to do is wave a check under their noses. Especially if it's something that's going to be harmful to black people, you can get them all on code very quickly. So that's what Biden did in 94. He wanted to influence laws at the state level. So he wrote a $13 billion check on the taxpayer's dime and said, let's go after these black people. Let's all get on code. Okay, well, now he's got $350 billion to play with. And what's he doing? Oh, well, we can't use that money to influence the states. Why? There's nothing we can do. What do you mean? Tell the states that the funding is linked to them changing their laws regarding qualified immunity to make sure that prosecutors have to lock up cops. If we see that there are prosecutors who have a track record of going after black people, well, we're going to make sure that everyone is held to account. He's not pulling strings with this, no oversight strings. No, he's not using the $350 billion that he has the potential to tap into. He's not using that to leverage the states to do anything. Oh, this is very different than the 94 crime bill. He's not leveraging the states and saying, hey, remember all that stuff that we brought in the 90s? You can get some money if you remove some of that crap. All these black folks you keep locked up, and for some damn reason you never seem able to get them out whenever they happen to be proven innocent. If you stop that mess, there's some money in it for you. He doesn't do any of that. Hey, all of these non-violent offenders that you've been locking up, many of them innocent, we're going to give you some money if you stop it. And if you go after prosecutors and police who have been practicing this garbage, he doesn't do that. So how is this any different than the 94 crime bill? It's not. By the way, you notice with the 94 crime bill, you didn't hear any Republicans talking about federal overreach on that one. None of them were looking at going, well, the federal government's trying to influence how the states do things, and, states' rights, Yeah, when it comes to going after black people, there is no difference between the Republicans or Democrats. Steve Biden is a so-called Democrat, and he was the one helping to turbocharge the prison-industrial complex. The black bootlegs on the left love to talk about how after the civil rights movement, the states began changing their laws so that if you were convicted of a felony, you would be permanently removed from eligibility to vote in that state. All the other states passed reciprocal legislation, which amounts to basically a de facto federal law. It's a national law because that's what all of them were on, Republicans and Democrats alike. These states knew exactly what they were doing. It was a plan that they would use these statutes to claim that if you get convicted of a felony, we're going to remove you from eligibility to vote. The black bootlicks on the left, they love to talk about how after the civil rights movement, all of these laws got put on the books, but they make it sound like only the Republicans were pushing this policy. Oh, it was just the Republicans. Keep voting for the Democrats. Biden not only reinforced this anti-black legislation, he put huge federal resources behind it. All of it with the knowledge that this would be used primarily against black people. The 94 crime bill was the federal government giving its support to what amounted to a repealing of black people's right to vote. These were Democrats who did this. Bill Clinton was a Democratic president, and this is what they were so proud of putting on the books. So when the Democrats tell you about how, oh, we're concerned about black people in Florida who don't have the right to vote because of, and Virginia, oh, they just got removed from the voter rolls because of that felony statute. We're just so concerned. Yeah, so concerned, aren't they? They're just so concerned about laws that disenfranchise black voters, that target black voters to be removed from the roll. They're just so concerned about it. I told you, and keep telling you, you need to see the laws and see the way the system works the way that your oppressor does, particularly when it comes to voting. Voting, largely because of the money of white entrenched interests, voting largely doesn't serve much of a policy function. But when it comes to gauging where the society stands, voting serves a huge, huge purpose. It helps to take the temperature of the
Let me get an
society.
ice cream sandwich.
People who are voting are people who are not in revolt. That's what you saw on January 6th. We had a whole bunch of white folks who looked and said, God dang it, that ballot, we didn't get what we wanted through the ballot. We're through with voting. And to hell with voting. There aren't enough angry white folks to get what they want. We can't win at the ballot box. We're not getting what we want at the ballot box. We're abandoning the ballot box. That's what you saw on January 6th. That's what the insurrection was about. When Biden says he's going to give the cities money to buy new equipment and technology, the police in the U.S. carry stun guns, batons, radios, pepper sprays, bulletproof vests, surplus military
They were
equipment,
good, too.
infrared, everything. These guys have practically the same capability as the military. But the streets are not a battlefield except when they show up. And these are not enemy combatants that they're dealing with, but that's how they see them because they're black. They got enough weapons and equipment to take Baghdad, yet these inbred jackasses still are incapable of stopping crime? If the police truly are unable to keep a lid on crime, that's because the bastards never had to. If they're no good at stopping crime, that's because that's not the reason that the police were created. They understand what their job is and what it's been since slavery, and that is to brutalize black people. That's their job. Biden understands that his job, especially at this critical moment, is to make sure that nobody's going to be impeding the police's ability to persecute black people. If black folks have successfully at the local and state level made it clear that the thugs with badges are going to be defunded, well, he's going to provide a federal workaround for that. Look, even if you want to be the most cynical, brain-dead moron out there, and I've had a few who came stumbling and bumbling into my Twitter feed, even if you want to try to ascribe anything resembling principles or morality to Biden's newest black incarceration bill, here's one thing that you can't deny. Obviously, the police nationwide are racist as hell. Not merely because that's their origins, but also because that is their desire. They want to be a bunch of anti-black thugs, which it's the only thing that they actually are able to do. After all of the protests and uprisings regarding the need to make sure the police are punished, at no point does Biden put in there, hey, what I'm putting on the books here, there's oversight written into it. You would think that that would be a given. Anything resembling the police would have to have some sort of oversight enforcement, some sort of oversight requirement. People have been pointing out that the police have been completely and thoroughly militarized, largely because of Biden's law, the 94 crime bill. And that being the case, Joe Biden himself is in the White House now, and you think that he would at least give passing mention to, hey, you know what? We understand that we're not going to repeat the mistakes of my last crime bill in 94. So this time around, we're going to flip the tables on the bad guys. All funding is going to be directly linked to policy. You have to jump through some hoops, you got to change the rules, and you're going to have to meet certain quotas and benchmarks and standards, especially when it comes to prosecuting police, if you want a slice of this $300 billion. Oh, that's huge leverage. But of course, as a white supremacist, Joe Biden's not using his leverage for anything that's going to hurt white supremacy. His job is to protect white supremacy, not to attack it. So he's not going to be requiring any sort of policy changes for the city. It's just going to be free money, and the money is going to be linked to them getting more weapons, more equipment, more thugs, possibly white, though they'll settle for some non-white ones in a pinch, especially if they're immigrants. But make sure that there's going to be more individuals out there who are ready to attack black people at a moment's notice. So Biden is not making it a point that he's going to be finally impaneling some sort of police oversight commission. He is not making it a point that there's going to be national legislation geared toward making certain that qualified immunity is a thing of the past. He's not pushing for that. That's not on the legislative schedule. He's not doing anything with the George Floyd Policing Act. Nothing that's going to be dealing with actually punishing the police. Instead, we're going to be emboldening the police. We're going to be giving them hundreds of billions of dollars. Now, I want to know where all the Biden sexuals are, the fools who claim that he wasn't going to be doing this. When the new Voices of Black Media were pointing out last year, watch when he gets in there. One of his first moves is going to be a new crime bill. The Biden sexuals, they told us, nah, he ain't gonna do that. He know better than that. He knows what black folks react go. Come on, brother, you're reaching now, brother. We've gone from that to a few white supremacists with their troll accounts, or a few of the clowns who are too cowardly to stick their heads up, trying to justify this mess. That's where we've gone from. We've gone from, oh, that wouldn't happen, to, well, this is a good idea. I want to know where all of the black Biden supporters have been at for the last 8 months, especially where they're at now. Everything we told you about Biden is coming to pass, and you didn't have to wait years for him to do this. A few months is all it took. Oh yeah, all of those black Biden supporters, they've been in hiding since the election. No one's sticking up for him now. No one explaining to us how Biden's not going to be pulling a Trump on us now, or that, oh, he's changed, he's different, oh, he knows better. None of that now. The black leftist morons that you typically see in the white media, none of them have been calling Biden's 2021 crime bill proposal a betrayal of the black community. And the main reason these bastards don't call it a betrayal is because they're in on it. Those black bootlicks that you see on cable, they understand full well what their job is. Their job is to make sure that they give a little bit of lip service that kind of sounds like it's sticking up for black folks. But as soon as the left hand of white supremacy starts doing things, well, they're supposed to justify it and explain it to us. Yep, them butter biscuits ain't going to eat themselves. At best, the most that you're going to be getting, especially from the black chattering bootlicks on cable, most that they're going to be doing, if they mention it at all, if they mention the obvious contradictions, if they mention that, hey, here's more money for the thugs with badges, with no requirement for oversight, with no requirement to prosecute the police, no requirements that you put standards in place to make it where the police are going to be instantly held accountable for the crimes they commit. Nothing like that at all. What they're going to be doing is giving a little bit of insincere tisking and some empty chatter about, well, we sure hope he doesn't just give the police more money willy-nilly with no oversight. That's going to be all that they say. That's the best you can hope for from them. But what's not going to happen is for any of these black leftists who lie through their teeth to support Biden, who are going to admit that they were wrong, that they won't be doing. These are the same people who had nothing to say about the 94 crime bill. Joe Biden wrote it, but none of them decided, hey, maybe we might want to lay responsibility at his feet. But that's their job. They're controlled opposition. So the controlled opposition is just doing its job. But it was the black media that had to force the 94 crime bill into the political discourse last year. And it's the black media who warned you what was going to happen, and we're the ones who are making sure you're on alert. Here it is, just like we told you. We can be disgusted by all this, of course. That doesn't change, but would nobody better be surprised? Hell, the black bootlicks, they're not surprised by that either. Thing is, black persecution doesn't bother them because survival's not at the top of their list of priorities. Getting a pat on the head from NASA, or being allowed to be the team mascot for white supremacy, that's what concerns them, so that's what they interest themselves with. Now, What comes next after this? What's Biden's next move going to be as he tries to push his 2021 crime bill? Well, don't be surprised when Simone Mamie Sanders and Karine Stud-Pierre, who have basically been MIA for the last 6 months, don't be surprised when they suddenly come out of hiding and begin making public appearances again. Biden's had those two morons on ice for the last 5 months, but he's been saving them for just the right occasion. And in the case of Simone Mamie Sanders, what's that old expression, the show ain't over till the fat lady sings? Well, she's on in 5. They won't be defending
on Unveils Heights.
Basically 1994 crime bill redux. Instead, what they're going to be doing is same crap they were doing last year. These morons never had any new material. They'll be explaining to black folks, that's what she's going to be trotted out for, the black face that's going to be explaining to black people how, oh, this isn't exactly what it looks like. And of course, she's going to be helping the white leftists to pull the same crap that they do, that the white right does whenever they bring out a Candace Owens or whenever they bring out a Larry Elders or whomever. Here's the black person who's going to be saying okay to all of this anti-black racist nonsense and agenda that we're pushing. Sure, she's on our payroll. Sure, she depends on us for every crumb of her daily bread. But that's okay. This is white supremacy doing its favorite thing, which is to bestow legitimacy and to bestow permission upon themselves to do stuff that they already want to do. White supremacy is very good at that. That's part of what the white media's function is. They're going to give themselves permission to do all of this foul stuff. The black bootleg who gets in front of the cameras, they're just there to give them cover. They're going to do it regardless. It's just going to be a matter of, here's the Negro that we're going to be using to go ahead and say to everyone, oh, don't worry about it. The black folks are totally fine with all this anti-black oppression. Be on the lookout for Simone Sanders to make some sort of appearance. There will be some sightings of her for the first time in months. Karine Stud-Pierre, too. But unlike last year when you had just one lonely little half attempt by Victor Blackwell at CNN to at least bring up the 94 crime bill's truth in sentencing provision, don't expect that this time around. There's not even going to be a pretense that the media is asking any questions or pointing out the obvious contradictions and the obvious problems here. They're not even going to make a pretense this time. Oh no, there's not going to be any town halls. Don't expect to see MSNBC having shows with panelists who are sitting here going, what the hell is this stuff? Hey, we remember the last time Biden had a crime bill and it didn't turn out so good for black folks. No, instead it's going to be the opposite. If they do bring black folks on who mention it, instead it's going to be, oh, this is different. We have had a chance to look at it, and it is nothing like the 94 crime bill. This is Biden's redemption. See, he's already said that he's not going to be focusing on incarceration this time. He didn't say that he would be focusing on incarceration in 94. He let the states do that. He paid the states to focus on incarceration. That's the same thing Simone Sanders said last year when CNN did that one and done, covered their butts mention of it. That's the only reason that Victor Blackwell asked that question. It was a CYA maneuver. That way, if the black media brings it up, CNN can point and say, see, you can't say we didn't even bring it up even once. We brought it up one time. So now you can't say they didn't even bring it up once. Okay, did you mention it twice? Well, once is enough. We felt we made the point. So when these fools start, black mouthpieces start getting trotted out and saying, Biden says that he's not focusing on incarceration. You just remember, he didn't do it in 94 either. This is the same thing Simone Sanders said last year. They said it was the states. They blamed the states. So Biden will be, he'll be repeating that one in the next few years. For those of you who don't get caught in the dragnet, you'll be able to see Biden repeating that same crap. Saying we didn't lock anyone up, the federal government didn't. Yeah, they're just going to put money into the hands of the states so that they can do it. And expect to see Kamala Harris dusting off her old tired spiel about how she's a progressive prosecutor. And this is the rethinking of policing that I was talking about. She'll be cackling and laughing the whole time, which of course is your cue that whenever this woman is sitting here doing some skullduggery, she starts laughing and giggling uncontrollably. I don't know if she's a junkie, if she's high, if she's got a brain lesion or a tumor or whatever. But whenever this woman starts doing some crap that disrespects black folks, whenever she's trying to pull the rug out from under us or otherwise trying to stab us in the back, she starts laughing and giggling. So you'll be treated to cackling Kamala Harris. Expect to see her in front of the cameras endorsing this. She'll be using all of those empty buzzwords and phrases that she was using in California when she was pulling her professional BS routine. That little con job that she ran to try to fool some gullible chumps into thinking that she was something other than just another thug white supremacist with a law degree. She'll be telling the cameras the same lies that she told in California, the same ones that she repeated during her own failed presidential run. How when I was a prosecutor in San Francisco, there were black parents who came to me they said, find Kamala. They said, find Kamala. They came to my office and said, I want to talk to Kamala. They came to me with tears in their eyes. They wanted justice for their dead children. Their children have been killed and they wanted justice. Oh yeah, you'll be hearing Kamala bring out that old saw again when it comes time for her to defend Biden's 2021 crime bill. It will be all about black people who want her and Biden to go lock up as many black folks as possible in order to protect black children. We're doing it to protect black children. Oh, she'll be talking about that. That's a phrase she'll be using a lot. We have to protect black children. But don't expect for any of the black children that she talks about to be Matrice Richardson. Matrice Richardson, the young woman snatched off the streets by the Los Angeles Sheriff's deputies and who was not seen or heard from again until her body was located months later. You see, Matrice Richardson's father went to Kamala Harris. He went to Kamala Harris too, like the other black parents that she talked about, though she never mentioned Matrice Richardson's father. He always gets left out of her story whenever she tells it. He went to her and said, I want justice for my murdered child. And Kamala Harris said, hey, I'm sticking with the cops. I'm siding with them. Your daughter's dead and you think the cops had something to do with it? Well, I don't think there's a case there. What do you mean I haven't even investigated the case? I already talked to the sheriff's deputies and they say that they murdered her fair and square and that if they didn't have a problem with it, you shouldn't either. That's what Kamala Harris is going to be doing. There will be no mention of the black folks who came to her and said, we want justice for our children murdered by these white supremacists. Instead, it's going to be, and here's all the good I did by locking up as many black people as possible. They're going to make sure that the whole conversation stays centered on black people because that's the target. This is how they try to justify what they're trying to do. There were plenty of black parents who came to Kamala to demand that she prosecute the police for murdering their children. Kamala Harris ignored them all. Don't expect the white media to bring that up. They won't be mentioning that. And you know who else will be cheering Biden on and claiming that black people need more white thugs with badges hunting us down? The black misleadership class. As soon as Biden announced this latest move against us, you should have had every black politician in Washington and in every major city up in arms. They should be pointing out that, hey, last time Biden wrote a crime bill, our cities saw nothing but mass incarceration of black people. They should be pointing out that Biden has refused to make any sort of policy changes at the federal level where punishing the police are concerned, and that until he gets that taken care of first, until we first make sure that thugs with badges are reined in, and that there are substantive policies being vigorously enforced to make sure the police understand you're not going to be selectively enforcing laws against black people anymore, not without punishment, you won't. Until we can be assured that the whole police oversight issue, which is the main crime facing America, until that's been dealt with, you can't be talking about any sort of crime bills. The criminals are all wearing badges. Or they're running around with law degrees working in the prosecutor's offices. That's where all the criminals are at. Yep, as usual, your black mayors and your black city council people and your black Congress people They're all waiting for the next fish fry. They're all probably hanging out going, Jim Clapper, when you going to have another fish fry? That's what they're doing. They're waiting for the NAACP's summer luncheon and to be followed by the Urban League's fall fish fry and all that. That's what they're waiting for. So they're too busy waiting for the next free lunch to actually be looking and pointing out this stuff. And that's what you get when you have useless, corrupt scumbags who you allow to be in positions over you. This is what you get. So be ready. The avalanche of black bootlegs who are going to be cheerleading for this, it's coming, and it will be completely and thoroughly shameless. Expect to see Negro Jim Clyburn cheerleading for this. Expect to see Bobby Rush, who has completely forgotten about his Black Panther past, by the way. He's put that in the rearview mirror a long time ago. We'll expect to see him singing the praises of the 2021 crime bill. Expect to see him out there, too. They'll get in front of the cameras and tell us, this isn't going to be like the crime bill at all. No, of course not. It's going to be worse. But Biden's written in some completely empty gibberish about crime, about violence intervention programs. Of course, nobody's going to be asking where the money for that's going to be going to, but that's not the point. The point is, this gives a little bit of language that the bootlegs can hide behind, and they'll be saying that first and foremost. Oh, sure, there's going to be mostly money for police and more military equipment for the thugs with badges and no oversight whatsoever. But hey, don't forget the violence intervention programs and some summer programming and something employment for youth. That's what they're going to do. They're going to baffle you with BS. They're going to give you the same old pile of word salad. But you know what's also going to happen? There's going to be some familiar talk that you haven't heard in a while. Expect to hear people start talking about broken windows policies again, like they did in Los Angeles and New York when they had that racist creep Bill Bratton, who was police commissioner of both those cities. All of you Biden supporters out there, this was what you voted for. Oh, we understand why you're laying low. Heck, you figured that Biden, he would break bad eventually, and black folks would understand the scam. By then, you would have got kicked off. You figured by then, you would have finessed yourself a little something for yourself. Oh, but Biden's like, hey, this war on black people, we can't let the grass grow under our feet. We got to get started immediately. And the bootlicks are like, oh my God, it's too early. You know, if you're going to be screwing black folks over, couldn't you at least wait another year? It's too early. You had Van Jones on CNN. He's sitting here already. He's crawled out of whatever hole that he was hiding in. And he's already talking about black folks need to be voting in 2022. Well, you know what? I'm not desperate for attention from the dominant society. In fact, I don't want any attention from them at all. And Biden, he can't write a check big enough to get me to betray black folks. All the folks who told us that, oh, Biden couldn't possibly be as bad as Donald Trump. And we told you that's a distinction without a difference. The difference, though, being, to the extent that there is a difference, you're not going to react to Biden the same way you react to Trump. The problem with Trump was he was too in your face. He was too bold with his white supremacy. So what happened was it was a shock to you to be seeing someone who was just blatantly honest about it. So you reacted to Donald Trump. See, that's what the black media is trying to get some of these hard-headed fools to understand. There's no difference between Trump and Biden. Two Yankee racists who have spent their entire lives persecuting black people. But the difference is how black people reacted one from the other. You didn't react to Biden then or now. You reacted to Trump. Long as Trump was in there, you were like, whoa, this is getting serious. We got to do something about this guy. Now they got some Biden in there, and you got Kamala Harris, ski-wee, and you got some black bootlegs vouching for them, and all of a sudden, the opposition becomes muted. What happens is you sit on your hands while they prepare how they're going to have a final solution for the Negro problem. And the fools who told you that Biden was the second coming of MLK, they're nowhere to be seen now. Now they're all in hiding. Well, the black media's not hiding, and you better not either. We can still stand up to the bastards. We haven't even begun to put the pain on white supremacy yet, but let this be yet another reminder to you, there is no difference in policy between the major parties when it comes to black people. They're both on the same page. They're both pursuing the same policies.